14th century warfare is often remembered through the lens of chivalry, a world of armored knights, honorable combat, and the pursuit of glory on the open field. In practice, this romanticized vision was being dismantled by the English longbow. At the battles of Crécy and Poitiers, the French nobility was systematically destroyed from a distance. Despite these defeats, the French military continued to rely on traditional, massed cavalry charges. This adherence to chivalric norms became a tactical asset for the English, leading to repeated, catastrophic French losses. In 1370, command of the French forces was handed to Bertrand du Guesclin, the newly appointed Constable of France. The Constable was the kingdom's supreme military commander, and du Guesclin inherited a military that was both physically and strategically broken. Instead, du Guesclin traded the glory of the open field for a claustrophobic reality of mud, heavy rain, and sheer physical exhaustion. He weaponized the recognition that medieval honor, when applied to a battlefield against a superior tactical force, was a fatal strategic weakness. His solution was a doctrine built on three cold-blooded pillars: asymmetric guerrilla tactics, the systematic starvation of the enemy, and the absolute refusal to fight. By abandoning chivalric norms, du Guesclin provided the mathematical mechanism required for the French state to survive. The Battle of Cocherel in 1364 demonstrated du Guesclin's commitment to tactical pragmatism. He found the English in their standard defensive posture, archers wedged into a tight hilltop formation. This manuscript detail highlights the specific threat. The tightly packed formations of heavy cavalry and infantry shown here were ideal targets for a longbow volley. Du Guesclin understood the longbow required French compliance, charging directly into the line of fire. He refused. Instead of attacking the hill, he ordered his army to execute a coordinated, feigned retreat. This maneuver exploited a predictable psychological trigger. Seeing the French flee, the English abandoned their defensive wedge and rushed down the hill. Leaving the high ground, the English formation collapsed. They surrendered their firing lines and structural cohesion. Once the English were out of position, du Guesclin launched a hidden French reserve into their flank, crushing the disorganized pursuers. Cocherel stripped away the English longbow's primary advantage, its reliance on French cooperation. In 1370, King Charles V formalized this approach. He issued a royal ban strictly prohibiting commanders from engaging the English army in pitched battles. This operational shift is known as a Fabian Strategy, avoiding decisive frontal assaults to wear down an opponent through attrition and misdirection. The name comes from Roman dictator Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus. He defeated Hannibal's superior invading force using attrition and skirmishes to deny him victory. Applied to France, the English army advances deep into the interior, but find French towns heavily fortified and inaccessible. Small French shadow units track the columns, severing foraging routes and disrupting resupply, strictly refusing to intersect with the main force. This new doctrine inverted the strategic pressure. The massive scale of the English army became a critical logistical liability. The test came in 1373 with John of Gaunt's Chevauchée, a scorched earth offensive meant to provoke the French into a pitched battle. Gaunt's force marched 1,000 miles across the heart of France. The French responded with an extreme countermeasure. They scorched their own earth before the English arrived. Farmers were ordered to burn their crops and retreat behind fortified walls, leaving the English with no local means of support. While Gaunt's massive army bogged down in the knee-deep mud, du Guesclin's units stayed entirely in the shadows. They relentlessly targeted English baggage trains and supply lines, focusing their attacks at difficult river crossings. After 5 months of marching, the English column was decimated. They were starved, diseased, and their horses were dead. Executing this strategy required a different soldier. Du Guesclin replaced aristocrats with professional routier companies. Unlike feudal lords who sought honorable combat and personal glory, these professionals were paid to follow orders. They were willing to avoid battles and prioritize the slow work of attrition. This enabled the French to trade the suicidal myth of chivalry for a functional, logistical reality. This map illustrates the French recovery between 1369 and 1380. We can see the methodical, piece-by-piece recovery of Poitou and Aquitaine. By 1380, English holdings had been reduced to Calais and a small coastal sliver. The recovery of these territories was accomplished without a single victory in a major pitched battle against the main English army. Du Guesclin's career is reflected in his death, depicted here. He didn't fall in a glorious charge. He died of illness on a grueling expedition. Chosen for professional competence, he died performing the necessary attritional work. His operational philosophy was summarized by military historian B.H. Littlehart as a single axiom: no attack without surprise. In this pragmatic campaign, true victory was found not in battle, but in the abandoned camp and the empty supply train. The Caroline War became a masterclass in military pragmatism, showing that victory was a function of logistics, exhaustion, and the ruthless exploitation of an enemy's overextension.